Says Suella Braverman has challenged Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood to trigger Article 58 to exit the European Convention of Human Rights. Yes, that big old barrier that stands in the way of almost everything in British life at the moment. Braverman, of course, herself a former Home Secretary, says the UK is at a moment of crisis, a crisis of security and a crisis of trust. Her comments come as Cabinet Minister Lord Hermer said leaving the treaty would actually harm the government's efforts to end the Channel crisis. I think the general rule of thumb is that if Lord Hermer said it, then probably think the very opposite. Maybe I'm being unfair. Richard Tice is the Deputy Leader of Reform UK. Joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Richard.
Good afternoon, Ian. You've literally just taken the words right out of my mouth.
That's
exactly what I said. That's what I said at the press conference that I was privileged and honoured to attend alongside Suella Braverman and Lord David Frost. And that was one of the things I said. If Hermer disagrees with it, then you'll be on the right side of history if you take the opposing view. And it was it's a very detailed paper that Suella Braverman has put out with the Prosperity Institute, big attended press conference, lots of press there, and it sets out a clear, detailed roadmap how you get to the destination.
And it's interesting this because Suella Braverman has, she left office, of course, as Home Secretary. She wrote in her letter to Rishi Sunak, I mean, it was a very revealing letter, constantly making the point that she had tried to, go further on things like illegal immigration and felt that she was cut off at the pass every step of the way. Lots of people have speculated since then, well, she's clearly going to join Reform UK. I mean, you might be able to give us a word on that. Is there a secret, conversation happening? We know her husband jumped the fence. Is she coming anytime soon, Richard? Is it this afternoon or tomorrow?
Well, there's an old expression. I mean, share and share alike. You got the husband on one side and the wife on the other. Look, Suella was obviously asked that by the press, and I'm obviously with Reform. She confirmed that she's a Conservative and she's not defecting. But you can work together on cross-party issues. Believe it or not, there's a couple of issues where I've been working with Lib Dem MPs and Labour MPs on specific issues, and this is one of those specific issues where 2 or 3 years ago you weren't really allowed to talk about leaving the ECHR. You'd be cancelled or taken away by the gentlemen or women in white coats. Now we've moved the Overton window where actually the discussion really is we should probably leave. So actually, how do you do it? What are the consequences? How long does it take? And so on. And so this was really the first detailed look at that. And there's been a great lie that has been out there, which we've now basically exposed, which was that the progressive left said, well, you can't leave the ECHR because it would upset the Good Friday Agreement.
That's nonsense, right?
But it is nonsense because when you actually read the Good Friday Agreement, it doesn't say anything of the sort. It doesn't say the UK has to remain in the ECHR and we're perfectly entitled to leave. So the reference to the ECHR only refers to domestic legislation produced and within Stormont, within the Northern Ireland Assembly for Northern Ireland. And there's also another thing here, which is that the Good Friday Agreement has already been amended a number of times unilaterally by the UK government. So this idea that it's preserved in Aspit for time immemorial is also bunkum. But that's what happens. They spin this misinformation, this fibs, to the point where you just take it as, well, it must have come from a very seasoned lawyer or KC, and therefore you trust it. Well, actually, good lawyers can argue both sides of the same coin.
I'm utterly fascinated. We've been talking, obviously, about what happened in America last night, and it's naturally fueled the question about how politics became so divided. And I've always been fascinated, Richard. I think I said this to you a number of years ago about the whole kind of groupthink problem that has happened, the sort of status quo love is. And, we mentioned Lord Hermer, Shagos Dick, as my friend referred to him as quite recently, which might be fairly apt for a number of reasons. But he is absolutely the sort of totemic, the archetypal problem on things like this, isn't it? This is a man that loves the whole kind of the continuation of the status quo, the groupthink thing, and they do this with a feeling of righteousness that they are correct and everybody else is completely wrong. I don't dispute Lord Hermer thinks it is preposterous to leave the ECHR because his brain can't think outside of that.
I just remind people, our most important security and defence partnership is what's called the Five Eyes Partnership with the US, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. 5 of us. Only the UK is a member of the ECHR. Those are the 4 great nations, very successful, strong human rights records. They're not members of the ECHR. And if you're a sovereign independent nation, then you want your own parliamentarians elected by the voters to pass laws that judges domestically, only domestically, they should rule on the laws that are passed by Parliament. And what they should not do is interpret those laws using their own bias, and that's what's been happening. So, and the impact is not just infuriating on the inability to deport foreign criminals, inability to deport illegal boat crossings. It's also actually with regard to defence. So, Ben Wallace, previous Defence Secretary, he's written that the ECHR impacts on the ability of special forces to carry out certain operations in the appropriate way. And this is just untenable. Climate change, the whole net zero stuff. We've got what I call the net zero nutters using the courts to say that XYZ hasn't complied with the Climate Change Act, and therefore it's not allowed, and that then goes all the way to the ECHR. And we've got basically what we call lawfare, where through judicial reviews and other things, we're trapped by these lawyers, and it's got to stop. It's because there is a direct link between the ECHR, the Human Rights Act, the reduction in our growth in GDP in the last 20 years, and the reduction in our productivity, as the lawyers have got very rich and the rest of us have got poorer.
And am I right in saying, Richard, it was Jack Straw last week that also supported that point that you've just raised, that actually the ECHR and Good Friday Agreement, there's no sticking point there.
Correct. And that's a remarkable intervention.
Correct.
Because he's a very senior politician, regardless of his political persuasion. He happens to be Labour, but he was a Home Secretary for, I think, a number of years, highly regarded. And so I think when someone of his ilk says the same, then that reinforces the point.
And on that point, Richard, always great to have you on. Let's speak again very soon. Richard Tice is, of course, Deputy Leader of Reform UK on that Suella Braverman challenging the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, to trigger Article 58 to exit the ECHR. They always go, oh, it's only you'll be in good company with Russia and Belarus or something of that nature. But as Richard pointed out there, well, there's quite a lot of countries around the world, our biggest allies, who are not in the ECHR. You look at United States would be an obvious example.